All right, well, welcome everyone. We are glad to have you with us today as we talk about the #1 predictor of career success. Everyone's line is muted as you come into the webinar today. You can unmute your line. Our goal, of course, is to make these sessions as interactive as possible. So we will be unmuting lines, and we strongly encourage you to interact with us in the chat or the Q&A as you join the session today. Also, you should note that this meeting is being recorded. We thank you for joining us today. Now I'll turn it over to Dr. Laura Ann, our chapter president, to get us started.
Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm Dr. Laura Ann Migliori, president of the Southwest Florida chapter, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today. Those who are live with us and those who may be listening to the recorded version, we appreciate you listening in after, because we know everybody's busy and it's hard to always make the times that we have the live sessions, but this is a great time in order to go through and be able to collaborate with each other. So we're very happy you could be with us. Next slide, please.
Sure thing.
All right, our vision and mission. As the Southwest Florida chapter, we create a community that works better together. That is our vision. And our mission is to empower members to operate at their full potential in developing workplace talent using the ATD capability model. Next slide, please. We know it's been challenging with these last few months with the COVID-19, but I want to just let everyone know that your board is working together to serve you, our members, one-on-one with support, resources, and assistance. Our website is listed here on the slide, but it's ATDSWFL.org. And we are putting new things on our website all the time that we believe will be of interest to you and beneficial in your development as a talent development professional. We have the monthly events. They're virtual, and we will resume in-person events when it's deemed to do so. It's really good to see things opening up here in Southwest Florida, so we're looking forward to that. And the webinars are on relevant topics that are aligned to the ATD capability model. And we are also providing, as a benefit to our members, individual virtual meetings. This is one-on-one assistance. Anything that you feel would be of beneficial to you personally, professionally. We have resume reviews, we have career tune-up and feedback, coaching, and also things on project management. So anything, very wide topics that can be discussed one-on-one. Just let us know, reach out to us. We're here to help. Next slide, please. And it's my pleasure to introduce Janner Holliday, who is the Vice President of Programming. He manages learning development and policy at the 21st Century Oncology, which is part of Genesis Care Global Group. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Janner.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. I'm very happy that you're here. Again, Laura Ann mentioned we're continuing with our virtual environment. At least for a little while now. We do want to make sure that everyone stays as safe as possible, but we also want to continue providing engaging, interesting, thought-provoking content. So here we are. Having said that, this day we have Vern Schellenger with us to talk to us. Upcoming will be Betsy Barber. I don't want to spill the beans on her, so that's down the road. But today we do have Vern. It's interesting that not everyone joins a company and stays there forever. People do move around in their careers, and it's an interesting topic to find out not only when they move, but how they get there. Vern is a seasoned professional with 25 years or more. We'll keep that between us with companies like Dunkin' Donuts. He is currently with Context Account, where he is a principal consultant. He's also a member of the Career Thought Leaders Consortium and member of the Consultants Institute. He's presented his material and other material at such places as Princeton, Georgetown, SHRM organizations, the Smithsonian Institute, and now with us. So without further ado, Vern, please share with us.
All right. Thanks so much, Janner.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, hello to everyone on the webinar. I hope that all of you and your families are safe and surviving these very unusual times. Excited to be here and have an opportunity to share some stuff that I'm pretty passionate about, and looking forward to an engaging webinar with each of you. Last month, Joanne Kaminsky provided an informative session on the ATD capability model, which Laura Ann just mentioned, and how it can be used for you to become more successful as a learning and development professional, how you can have a greater impact in your organization. In today's session, we're going to be taking a deeper dive into the first domain of the model, building personal capability. Today's session will focus on 4 of the capabilities in that first domain that can contribute to you building your personal capability: communication, collaboration and leadership, cultural awareness and inclusion, and lifelong learning. Before we get into the content of the session, I do want to spend a few minutes reinforcing some of the key concepts that are critical to our success as learning and development professionals. I'm well aware that you will forget 50% of what I'm going to present to you within an hour after this session ends. So forgetting is a normal part of how our brains function. So this is one of the key reasons why we, as learning and development professionals, need to focus on doing whatever we can to design learning experiences that involve as much learner engagement, as much built-in spaced repetition, and as much reinforcement to make sure learning in fact takes place. So with that in mind, did you know the physical act of writing notes by hand creates additional neural pathways to the same information? So the simple act of writing information down will help you reinforce and learn some of the key concepts from today's presentation. So please grab a pen and a piece of paper so you can capture key concepts that you believe will help you better learn today's information. And there'll also be a couple of exercises where you'll be creating your personal answer, personal response to a given question. And throughout the session, as Aaron mentioned, we will be using the chat, and I encourage you to put your thoughts, comments, questions into the chat. So let's begin. Here's a question I'm sure you all want the answer to. Do you know the #1 predictor of career success? So in the chat, put your 1-word or 2-word answer into what you believe is the #1 predictor of career success. And Aaron, once you see some comments coming in, just let me know.
Yep, we've got your network strength. Another is a strong network. Those are 2 comments we've got so far.
Okay.
Having a career plan and then networking to accomplish that plan. Your current performance is the #1 predictor of career success. That's a good answer. And as well as your learning mindset.
Awesome. Very good. All right. And so for those of you that answered networking or your network, we're going to dive into that in lots of detail here on this webinar. Let me give you some background and some context into networking as the #1 predictor of career success. Take a few seconds and read this quote from Adam Grant from his book, Give and Take. So all of the answers, whether it was networking, whether it was your career plan, whether it was your performance, those are all certainly critical and certainly contribute to your career success. But my focus is on this 4th ingredient that Adam Grant mentioned, one that's critical but often neglected. Success depends heavily on how we approach our interactions with people. In addition, in the answer to what is the #1 predictor of career success, here's what Michael Simmons found as he did an in-depth research article for Forbes magazine. Here are his conclusions. The bottom line, according to multiple peer-reviewed studies, simply being in an open network instead of a closed one is the best predictor of career success. And when you think about an open network, think broad, diverse. In fact, the study shows that half of the predicted difference in career success, number of promotions, level of compensation, industry recognition, is due to this one variable, having a broad, open network. And when many people think about networking or they hear the word network, they automatically think networking events. At Contacts Count, we believe that creating a broad, open network is the result of how you approach your interactions with others whenever and wherever those interactions and conversations take place. Whether that's a colleague at work, a project team you've been assigned to, a discussion with a friend, conversations at a family barbecue, or in fact, an actual networking event. Every conversation you have with another person has the possibility to be the beginning of a meaningful relationship, a relationship with another person who becomes part of your network. So in terms of networking, I'd like to get a little sense of where each of you are at. And Aaron's going to pull up a poll here and answer the poll based on the statement that best describes where you are at with networking.
The poll should be on your screen. We have one response. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
All right, Vern, we're going to end the poll now.
Yeah, that's fine. So it looks like most of you engage in networking activities every month, and you have some success at it. And then there's a few of you that feel they have a broad open network now. And there's some people that, again, occasionally network, and some people that don't like to network. In our research at Contacts Count, we find people who are pretty much run the spectrum of this entire poll. And we actually have a networking competency assessment where we have people assess their own skills at networking. And basically what we find is that there's probably 20% of the population, and we've had thousands of people take this assessment. About 20% of the population is what we would call naturals. They naturally get networking and are good at it and score high on the assessment. But the other 80% of people, always have some room for improvement, even if it's, I hate networking and I avoid it whenever I can. What we found is that folks that are in that type of situation simply don't know what to do or what to say in a networking situation. And when they learn how to do it, they can actually improve their skills. So for the past 25 years, everything we've created at Contacts Count is focused on how you approach your interactions with others. Every skill, every behavior, every strategy, every tool that we've put together is all about building relationships built on mutual trust. And when you build that network of connections, you will find that a broad open network can actually help you perform better on the job. It can help you advance your career. It can help you add value to your organization. Now, we've developed 8 competencies that cover every facet of networking. And individuals who learn these become master networkers, and they make networking an art, not an accident. So given the time we have available, I'm going to provide a very brief overview of each competency. At the end of the session, you'll have access to this presentation, the recording. I'll provide a number of other resources you can access to learn more about the Contacts Count approach to networking. And there'll also be a link to a short quiz where you can assess your networking skills. So as I briefly describe the 8 competencies, put any questions or comments you have in the chat. So the first competency is commit to a networker identity. Your networker identity is really about how you think and feel and behave when it comes to networking and how you approach your interactions with others. Taking a strategic approach is all about the who, the where, your goals of networking, getting the best possible return on investment in the time and dollars if you've spent money on any kind of networking related activities. Envisioning your ideal network. We all have 4 distinct networks. And what we've found is that most people don't leverage all of their networks to their full advantage. Developing trusting relationships. This is all about how you approach your interactions with others, the different types of conversations you have with different people in different situations. What do you say? How do you say it? And how do you build trust as you get to know someone better and better? Increase your social acumen. This covers everything from actually being able to learn and remember someone's name to how do I get myself out of this very awkward situation I find myself in when I'm networking. Deepen interactions is all about how you engage with others. How do you spark conversations? How do you learn about what others, who they are as a person, what they're all about, and how you can possibly help them in some way. Communicating your expertise is really how do you teach others about who you are and what you're good at. And last but not least, creating new value is being able to use all of these skills and your network to actually add value to your particular organization. So this session is really focused on thinking about this from an individual standpoint and how you can bring about change in your organization. But I wanted to share with you what it looks like if you use these 8 competencies and you, in fact, help it lead an effort to incorporate more of this into the culture of your organization. You can actually create what we call is the now, a network-oriented workforce. And here's what it looks like. You can see at the bottom of this slide, there are the 8 competencies. When people learn and use these skills and behaviors, they eventually teach trust. They create a trust-based relationship that builds their networks. And when you have that type of a relationship, you have more, you have the right connections, you have more meaningful conversations, all of which leads to collaboration. And we all know that in today's world, nothing gets done without some type of collaboration. And the more collaboration, the greater the amount of collaboration in any organization. It's going to drive the performance of the organization in a lot of those key business drivers that you see at the top. So let's start with answering the question, what is networking? I'm going to provide a definition for you on the next slide, and I'd like you to read that. And as you're reading it, pick out a word or two or a phrase that jumps out at you and put it into the chat.
Make sure when you are chatting that you chat to all panelists and attendees. Hit the drop down on the 2 so that we all can see your responses. Some things coming in, Vern, are a deliberate process, mutually beneficial. That's in there a few times. Exchange, yep. Collaboration.
Yep. Very good. Yeah, those are the 3. If I had to pick out 3 key words, the participants have already put them into the chat. Certainly, networking is a deliberate process. Networking takes time. You have to schedule lunch with someone if it's someone you want or need to meet or want to meet and put that networking event. Put that lunch on your calendar. If you want to schedule a networking event, you need to put it on your calendar. You need to show up. That all takes time. And so those are clearly deliberate actions. And any conversation, any interaction with another person, usually there's some exchange of something, whether that's, as it says, information, resources, support that takes place. And for a trust-based relationship to be built, obviously it needs to be mutually beneficial. There needs to be benefits to both people in the relationship. Now, I don't expect you to leave the webinar with this definition memorized, but I do have a Cliff Notes version for you that you can memorize pretty easily. And I'd like you to start this process by actually writing down what I'm about to say. This is short, it'll only take a few seconds. Networking is not about talking and taking. Networking is not about talking and taking. Networking is about teaching and giving. Networking is about teaching and giving. I encourage you to remind yourself of this every day. Remind yourself of this as you approach your interactions with others. Put a note on your smartphone, a 3x5 card on the desk, whatever can help you actually remember that networking is about teaching and giving. So it isn't about talking and taking. It's certainly not manipulative, not only for extroverts, not for just job hunters and sales professionals, or optional in today's workplace. Networking is about learning the skills and behaviors identified in those eight competencies, and their learnable skills and behaviors, and applying them on a consistent basis in the conversations you have with others on a daily basis. And on our work at Context Count, we've witnessed individuals from every professional field you can think of who have worked to learn and apply these skills and improve their ability to build broad open networks. So if networking is about teaching and giving, how do you go about teaching others about who you are as a person? You learn the skills that you find in competency number 7, communicate your expertise. So I'm going to share with you 2 skills and behaviors today that will teach others a little bit more about who you are, what you're good at, the type of opportunities to send your way. So how many of you have attended a networking event and been asked the question, what do you do? Put a yes in the chat box if you've had that experience.
Lots of yeses coming through.
Lots of yeses, yep. And when that question's asked, the vast majority of the time, people answer with typically one of 4 kind of different answers. They'll provide their title. They will say, I am the director of training. They'll tell you who they work for. I work for Amazon. They'll respond with their industry. I work in healthcare. They'll respond with their profession. I'm an attorney. I'm a CPA. I'm a registered nurse. And then what often happens is that if you've asked someone what do they do, and they answer in one of those 4 ways, it almost without hesitation, they ask, what do you do? And I'm guessing some of you may have used one or more of those typical responses at one time or another. I know I did before I learned the contacts account approach to networking. And after that exchange, what often happens is now both of you are kind of searching, okay, what do I say next? The what do you do question is one of the many opportunities that you have to teach the other person something about who you are, what you're good at. And when you begin to teach other people about who you are, and you'll discover that this begins to actually fuel a more meaningful conversation with the other person. So there's a much better way to answer the what do you do question. And at Contacts Count, we call that create a best test answer. And here's what that looks like. A best test answer is a two-sentence response to the what do you do question. The first sentence is one thing you do best or one thing you want to teach someone about yourself. And the second sentence is a testimonial or an example of when you saved the day, solved the problem, or served the client. Take a few seconds and read the examples of the best test answers that you see on this screen. So if you look at the first example, rather than respond with, I am the VP of HR, you learned something about this person. He or she's been recognized by their peers for an onboarding program they created. The best test answer often creates a situation that makes it easier for the other person to continue the conversation. So if I heard this best test answer from this VP of HR, here's some of the questions that would come almost immediately to my mind. Why did you feel like you had to make some changes to your onboarding program? What were some of the things that you changed that made it so successful and got you to speak here at the conference? How have you measured the success of your program? And I'm sure all of you could think of other questions that may be popping into your head at this point in time. So when someone asks, answers a what do you do with a best test answer, it almost creates questions on the other person's part. And the more questions you ask, you're actually demonstrating your interest in that person. You're being what we call at Contacts Count, seriously curious, which is a key skill to make sure that you're learning as much as you can about the other person. And by asking those questions, and I learn about the VP of HR, the more I know about him or her, the more likely I can help that individual in some way. So in this example, very simple thing might be a week from now, if I saw an article on onboarding, and I, again, had contact information, I might email the person the article. It's a simple, small act, but it shows my interest in the person and shows that I'm supporting that person. And conversely, if this VP of HR and I get to know each other even better, maybe down the road he or she helps me in some way, provides me some resources. This is an example of teaching and giving in action. So I'd like each of you now to take some time and take this opportunity to create your best test answer and be ready to use it the next time someone asks you, what do you do? So this slide, gives you the instructions, and I'll let you read it for a second, gives you some guidelines in terms of what you need to do to create a best test answer. And certainly if you have any questions about this, just put them in the chat. All right, the most common mistake people make when they first attempt to do a best test answer is they write 2 paragraphs instead of 2 sentences. So again, focus on keeping your best test answer short, 2 sentences. It may take you a few attempts and some feedback from others before you finally get a really great best test answer. And if we were in a live session, what we'd be doing is creating best test answers, practicing them with a partner, getting some feedback, rewriting them, refining them, and really honing them into a best test answer that you're really comfortable with. Here are some tips for when you create your best test answer. And I'll let you read those. So I'm going to set the timer right now for about 2 minutes, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes to create a best test answer. Now, some of you may be able to create your best test answer, or maybe you have one already. And if you do, please put it in the chat if you're willing to share with others, and we can share that with everyone else and talk about it. Or if you have any questions about this, put those in the chat as well. And so you may or may not get a best test answer done in 2 minutes, but you'll have a good start. You'll come up with some good ideas on how to create a best test answer. So the timer is on. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and at the end of this, I'll signal Aaron to provide whatever's in the chat.
We've got a couple answers in the chat so far.
Okay, and the 2 minutes are up. Aaron, you want to share them?
Yeah, actually, Joanne, I've unmuted you if that's okay. If you wanted to share yours that you typed into the chat, or you can unmute yourself.
Okay. Yes, thank you so much for that. And so what I shared in the chat is that I work with small business owners to grow and revitalize their businesses. Currently, I'm conducting a series of virtual sessions to help them through our COVID crisis. So it's great work, and I'm very excited to be doing that.
Yeah, that's a great best test answer, Joanne. So, and notice, obviously, Joanne, you've thought about that and you've put it together, and it was easy for you to say, right?
You know why, Vern, if I may share? It was easy for me to say because I really do feel passionate about what I'm doing. And this is actually a new division for Vision Quest Leadership, our small business division. And I've just been getting some great responses, and we are building additional training segments that go beyond the series even, and I have people signing up for them. And so it's been really very meaningful and very important for those who are participating.
Yeah, that's awesome, Joanne. And so for some of you, if you're on the call and this is the first time you've even tried to create a best test answer, notice that it can be done, and when it's done effectively, it is a great response to what do you do. Anything else in the chat?
Yeah, we actually have a little bit of a queue here, Vern, if that's okay. Lisa Owens can go, and then Elaine, and then Elizabeth. They'd all like to share.
Okay. Lisa?
Hi, Vern and everyone. Thank you for doing this. Vern, you have been coaching me for several years now, and so it's fairly easy for me. Mine reads, I'm a learning specialist for corporate learning. I learned I had to add that corporate learning, or else people thought I was a sports trainer or a dog trainer. So I had to add that. I'm a learning specialist for corporate learning, currently working on 2 books that are on Amazon. One is how to design learning programs for modern learners, and the other is a college textbook teaching how to find your dream job. So thank you for all your coaching, Vern. It's been helpful.
You're welcome, Lisa. Again, and notice what Lisa said, she had to put corporate training in. And so again, when you know, right now, if you're new to this, responding with best test answers may seem strange, awkward, and maybe uncomfortable, but the more you practice and the more you get some feedback on it, you'll create, you know, a great best test answer. Who's next, Aaron? Thanks, Lisa. Anyone else?
This is Elaine. I can share mine.
Sure, Elaine, go ahead.
I'm retired, not quite a year now, from actually working in higher education, international education, and I recently assisted a colleague I've known for quite a few years to go through a new job search for a position. First time she had been job searching in 20 years, and I've always enjoyed helping other people craft resumes and understand what a job description really is seeking in a prospective employee. And so volunteering to assist her through several months of kind of guided coaching through that process was very rewarding for both of us. She ended up getting the job and start soon. And I felt like I contributed a lot of experience, and it was wonderful to mentor someone.
Okay. And do you think you'll, you know, from that be able to create a best test answer? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm guessing from that, you know, description, you could create, you know, a best test answer. You know, as a career coach myself, I talk about helping people. You know, they ask me, what do? I say, I help people work through the emotional roller coaster of the job search process. I just helped the client land a job, and he negotiated a higher salary for himself. So that's a simple 2-sentence answer to essentially some of what you just said. So,
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Anybody else, Aaron?
I could do mine.
Okay.
This is Elizabeth. I don't want to take over Aaron though.
Okay, go ahead, Elizabeth, and then we'll have to move on. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my first sentence is, my passion as a communication specialist is building sustainable multicultural communities. And my test is, or testimonial or whatever. Recently I've been working virtually to support community support systems here in the States and also in West Africa.
All right. Very good. Very good. All right. So I think we've taken a deep dive in there. You've heard from some of the participants, and I think everyone at least is off to a great start and with a best test answer. And like I said, if this is new to you, it might feel you know, a little uncomfortable. The biggest objection that we hear when we do this in a live session is, boy, this sounds like bragging. I don't know if I could do it. But recognize when you're asked the what do you do question and you say, I'm the director of training, that really doesn't answer the question. The question is, what do you do? It tells the other person your title. So again, it's an opportunity to teach someone something about you So I encourage you to venture outside your comfort zone, take the opportunity to teach the other person something about you. And if you want to be recognized for your accomplishments and you want to build your personal brand, changing your answer to the what do you do question is a response and a behavior that will help you get there. The one other thing to think about with a best test answer is, guess what? You have more than one skill or talent. So there you can actually create multiple best test answers. And a quick example from my personal experience in the job search when I was looking for a job, it was either a senior HR position or a senior learning and development position. And so I actually had best test answers based on which audience I was meeting with or what networking event I was going to. And so you can, again, think about best test answers based on the situation, the person you're talking to. What do you want to teach them about yourself? And for some people, you might want to teach them something different than you might want to teach someone else. As you have several conversations with the same person, the next time you see that person, the what do you do question no longer is appropriate. It kind of morphs into the how are you? What's new? How have you been? And you've probably had those situations as well. And sometimes, unfortunately, people don't really know what to say in those situations or are prepared to answer the what do you do, the how are you question. And the conversations go something like this. How are you? Good. How about you? Good. I'm really busy at work. Me too. What a grind. Sure could use a vacation. Me too. I hope to plan one soon. Someplace nice and warm. It's been too cold here. Yeah, you're right about that. Good talking to you. Yes, good seeing you. Let's get together and talk again real soon. So again, those types of conversations is people really aren't prepared and they really don't know what to say. And when you're asked, how are you? What's new? How have you been? It's another opportunity for you to teach someone about who you are. So what do you say and how do you say it? It's basically a short story. It's a short story that no longer than 1 to 2 minutes. And to demonstrate this to you, I'm going to read a story to you that the CEO of Contacts Count, actually, this is a real life example. She was meeting with someone who knew her pretty well, and that person asked, so what's new with you? And as I read this story, I want you to listen for what the story teaches you about Lynn and enter some of the things that you learn about Lynn in the chat. So here we go. The person asked Lynn, so what's new with you? Well, I have to tell you about a really challenging training experience I had last week. When I walked into the hotel conference room in Seattle, where I was going to teach a 3-day negotiation skills course, I was so happy that it had floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the bay. But within the first hour, I realized everybody, including me, couldn't take their eyes off the water. I could feel the longing to be out there. So that night, I negotiated with the boat company that takes people to Victoria and back. And for the next 2 days, we had the class on the boat. People were so grateful to be on the water and that they worked very hard, had a successful learning experience, and enjoyed breaks and lunch strolling around the boat. So that story took about 40 seconds, not even a minute. Aaron, do you see anything in the chat in terms of what people learned?
I do. Negotiation skills trainer was one comment. Another was visual emotional descriptions that liked the short story concept.
Okay. Yep.
Those are the 2 comments we've gotten.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So in that, certainly some of the other things that the participants say is that, Lynn's creative. She's a problem solver. She pays attention to the participants' reaction and the quality of the learning environment. So she actually made a major change and actually created an environment where they were more engaged and more learning took place. From she's flexible, she's fun to be with. So again, a story teaches people about who you are, what to come to you for, what you're good at, what kind of opportunities to send your way. It gives a vivid picture of you in action. And a lot of times, most people won't be there when you have your shining moments. So it's only through conversation and storytelling that people can find out about your character, your competence, your skills, your qualities, your traits. And in terms of creating a story, it's really a fairly simple process, or it's a simple way to think about it. Sometimes it's harder to actually create the story, but here's the 5-step process that we use at Context Count. And I'll give you a little bit of time to look at that slide. So let me read Lynn's story again, only this time I'm going to demonstrate the 5 steps. So what's new with you? Segue. Well, I have to tell you about a really challenging training experience I had last week. Situation. I walked into the hotel conference room in Seattle. Snafu. But within the first hour, I realized everybody, including me, couldn't take their eyes off the water. Solution. So that night I negotiated with a boat company who takes people to Victoria and back. Significance. People were so grateful. They worked very hard, had a successful learning experience. So if you think about it, it's actually a fairly simple process. The hardest part is coming up with a story that, again, keeps you to 1 to 2 minutes, but really speaks to, again, as someone said in the chat, emotion and everything that, the qualities, the traits that you want to teach someone else about, and have them learn about who you are. And that's how, again, relationships become mutually beneficial, when people share that type of information about themselves. And unlike the best test answer, stories actually being 1 to 2 minutes, you can add a lot more detail. So the question then becomes, where do stories come from? And I encourage you to put some answers in the chat. Where do you think you might be able to find a story about yourself?
Some answers we're getting are daily events.
Yep.
Some other comments that they like the structure to tell a story.
Okay.
Recent experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, you can look for stories pretty much in all aspects of your life. Work projects you've completed, a new system or process you implemented in your work or organization, task forces you've served on, major accomplishments in your life, both personal and professional, volunteer work that you've done, examples of where you went out of your way to help another. And all of you have resumes, and guess what? Almost every single bullet point on your resume could actually be crafted into a story, because that's a 1-sentence line on your resume, and it really is the result of a lot of effort and hard work you put into something. And the last slide I'll share with you here regarding the program is just a slide that, checking your story for success, and creating a success story that, teaches people to trust you, gives you a vivid example of how your expertise enhances your credibility, makes people want more of a relationship with you. So networking is not about talking and taking. Networking is about teaching and giving. And we've focused more on the teaching part, you teaching others through best test answers and stories. The giving part, the best analogy that I can think of is, think of an iceberg, and we all can think of that and visualize that. when we first meet somebody, we're basically learning about who they are and we're above the waterline. But the longer your relationship continues, the more conversations you have with another person, you begin to discover more about who they are, what they like, what their passions are, what their goals are, their personal life, and you build that mutually beneficial relationship. So, what will you do? Write down one thing you learned today and begin to think about answering the question, can you commit to doing something different in your conversations with others? Now, as learning and development professionals, we know that reinforcement is really key to learning. So here are some stretch assignments. Here are some actions that can make a difference for you as you leave the webinar. For those of you motivated to really improve your networking skills, these will actually allow you to practice and refine some of what we've talked about today. And if you have any questions about this, feel free to email me. And if you actually try one of these, I'd welcome the opportunity to chat with you, about your experience. So let me close with one of my favorite quotes. A guy named Albert Einstein said, "The world we've created is the product of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking." So I hope that I provided some new information and insights that have impacted the way you think about networking, and that new thinking helps you create, cultivate, and capitalize on your current relationships and the relationships you build in the future. So I want to thanks to Aaron, the wizard behind the curtain that makes all this tech stuff work, and to each of you, thanks for attending, thanks for your participation. And as promised, here is my contact information, and there is the link to a sample of the networking competency assessment that I talked about. This is a short sample. It's 8 different questions. It'll take you 5 or 10 minutes to complete. And if you do so and want to talk to me about it, again, there's a link in the assessment to my calendar, and we can chat about it. So thanks again, and Aaron, I don't know, do we have time for any questions or comments at this point?
We do have 5 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and put this link in the chat so that people can copy and paste it easier. I'm typing it right now. Okay. But if anyone would like to ask Vern a question, we do have 5 minutes or a comment. We can feel free to unmute your line. And Vern, there's several comments thanking you for this presentation and the interaction today. And I'm typing the link in the chat now for the assessment.
Very good.
I think I got the spelling right.
Okay. And again, let me just reiterate, happy to talk to anybody about any of the content that I presented today or anything related to networking. It's something that I'm passionate about. I'm energized when I talk to people about it. So feel free to reach out to me.
There is one question for you, Vern.
Yeah.
How do you switch the conversation from me to them?
Great question. One of the things that you need to think about teaching and giving. And so if somebody asks me how I've been, and I start to talk about myself, I consciously, and this is just one technique, there's a lot of techniques, I consciously in my brain am thinking, okay, I'm speaking too much about myself. And I will then at some point just cut myself off and say, hey, enough about me. What about you? How are you doing? Another thing to think about is being prepared. If you're having lunch with somebody, or if it's a one-on-one conversation, who is this person? What kind of questions do you want to, ask them? What questions do you want to use to learn more about them? If it's a networking event and you're, meeting people for the first time, again, if I ask somebody, what do you do? And they say, well, I'm a director of training, then, here are some of the questions I might ask them. I might say, well, what are the challenges you have? What are the, what project are you working on at work? So again, just think teaching and giving. You certainly want to communicate your expertise, but it's a great question, because if it's too much about you, then it becomes a one-way relationship, and that's not mutually beneficial. So hopefully I answered that question.
I think so. We've got
Okay.
2 more minutes. Any quick commentary on applying this for virtual interactions? Getting a lot of thank yous here in the chat, Vern.
Okay.
And with that, we will go ahead and conclude this session. I appreciate everyone being here today. And Vern, can they expect a follow-up from you?
Yes, as part of, again, repetition and reinforcement, look for an email from me in the next 24 to 48 hours. So.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Vern.
You're welcome, Janner. Take care.
You
Vern,
too.
if you stop sharing, I can end this session.
Okay.